Not many singers can mix pop, folk, and country music with amazing words in their songs, but John Denver, an American singer and songwriter, could do all of this easily and even more. He was one of the most popular singers who played acoustic guitar in the 1970s. John Denver made many famous songs like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Leaving on a Jet Plane, and Annie's Song. The last song was written about his wife at the time, Annie Denver. Now Annie is 78 years old, and she finally told everyone the truth about John Denver, ending all the rumors about the famous country singer. It's true that many people wouldn't know who Annie Denver is if she hadn't been married to the famous singer. She used to work as a school commissioner and was on TV, and she's pretty amazing too. That's why it makes sense that the country singer fell in love with her. She was born on September 6, 1946, as Annie Martell. Her parents were Jim and Norma Martell, and she grew up in Minnesota. She has 3 brothers and sisters named Linda, Terry, and Ben. They were all raised as Christians. Annie went to local schools in Minnesota her whole life. After she finished high school, she went to Aldo's College in St. Peter. That's where she met the famous country singer. At that time, Denver was in a music group called the Chad Mitchell Trio when the future couple first met in 1966. Martell was in her second year of college then, and Denver really liked her right away. They met up again a few months after they first saw each other. Martell told more details about how they first met during a 2022 episode of a podcast called Mobituaries with Moa. She talked about how her future husband was playing music with the Mitchell Trio. Right after that, he played guitar with a group of people who were putting on a silly little musical show. Martell said she was the girl who carried the signs across the stage in Act 1 and Act 2. She even said that her ex-husband still remembered what she wore that day: blue jeans and a flannel shirt with penny loafer shoes. The two really liked each other and wrote letters to each other. Before they knew it, they were getting married on June 9, 1967. They dated pretty quickly, only 9 months until they got engaged and married right after. Annie's Song is one of John Denver's most popular songs, which introduced Annie Martell, who became Mrs. Denver, to everyone. What makes the song so special is that it has all the things John Denver loved at the time: his love for music, love for his wife, and especially his love for nature. Just recently, Annie Denver finally told everyone what we all wanted to know about John Denver and this song. The 78-year-old widow still cries whenever she hears this song. Besides this song, Annie Denver also said that another of her favorite songs is Perhaps Love, which her ex-husband sang with Placido Domingo. Did the song come from a romantic moment between the two? Unlike what most people think, Annie's Song was created after John Denver had a life-changing experience. You see, 1971 was one of the most important years in the country folk singer's career because he released Take Me Home, Country Roads during this time. But a few other songs also helped make his career famous, including Annie's Song. What happened was that the couple went on a camping trip in Aspen, Colorado, with some friends. Since Denver loved nature so much, it didn't take long for him to fall in love with the place. This also gave him the idea for another of his hit songs, Rocky Mountain High. Eventually, Denver and his wife moved to that place where they built a home and raised their family. But one day in 1973, John Denver came running home, feeling inspired by the beautiful place around them. According to Annie Denver, her husband wrote the song after one of their fights, when they decided to stop arguing and make up. In a good mood, John Denver left to go skiing. As he sat on the Ajax chair on Aspen Mountain, the song just came to him. As soon as he got home, he wrote it down, and in less than 10 minutes it was finished. At first, it was a love song, and it was given to me through him, but for him, it became kind of like a prayer. Annie Denver said, "It's nice to know that there's lasting proof of the love that Annie and John Denver shared through this song. The couple couldn't have children naturally, but they adopted a son and a daughter who they both loved with all their hearts. Their names were Zachary John and Anna Kate. Unfortunately, the couple's love didn't last long, and in 1982, the Denvers got divorced, ending their 15 years of marriage. There are two sides to every story, and we'll look at each person's reason for why they broke up. For the country singer, he thinks that his success and how much he worked really hurt his relationship with his wife. He even said that in the last few years they were together, the two seemed to start growing apart from each other. Being a popular singer at his best time also meant John Denver had to spend many days traveling and performing shows, which also played a part in his divorce. I think my success and how much I cared about my work certainly affected Annie's and my relationship, Denver said in a 1983 appearance on The Russell Hardy Show. He continued, I think over the last 4, 5, or 6 years, we started growing apart from each other, and part of it had to do with how much time we spent not together and the things that I got stuck doing and not being together and then not being flexible when we got back together to sort of fit the other person's life into our own. Compared to the singer, his wife says that the reason for their breakup was because they were too young and not mature enough to deal with John Denver's sudden fame. She found his celebrity status and everything that came with it scary to the point that she no longer knew who she was and felt like she didn't have her own identity. Despite their differences, the couple still split up on good terms, with her staying single to this day while John Denver got married a second time. Did you know? There have been rumors going around that Annie Martel has already died, but that's not true since she's still living in her Colorado home with her children and grandchildren. Even though they were only married for a short time, it's not often we get to see a friendly separation between two people, with Annie Martel staying nice to her ex-husband even after they split up. This is quite surprising, especially if you know the scandals and problems that surrounded her ex-husband, most especially his death, which we'll talk about later. Since we've already talked about Annie Martel Denver, it's only right that we also talk about her ex-husband, John Denver. He was born on December 31, 1943, as Henry John Deutschendorf Jr., in Roswell, New Mexico. He came to be known as the famous country music star John Denver. His parents were Emma Louise and Captain Henry John Dutch Deutschendorf Sr. His father was a highly decorated pilot with impressive records. Growing up, Denver remembered his father as a strict man who didn't show his love to his children openly, and because of his dad's job, they moved around a lot. Denver was a shy child, and their family moving around a lot didn't help. For one thing, he had a hard time making friends and getting used to their new places every time. The first time they lived the longest in one place was when his father worked in Tucson, Arizona, where the family lived from 1951 to 1959. When he was 11, his grandmother gave him an acoustic guitar, which he learned to play by himself. He kept playing, and by the time he was in college, he was good enough to play at local shows and clubs. At the time, he was still using his real name until the founder of the New Christie Minstrels, Randy Sparks, suggested he change to a different name, one that wasn't so hard to say. Now going by the name of John Denver, he kept playing even as he went to Texas Tech University in Lubbock while studying architecture. At the time, Denver not only played the guitar, but also sang in a folk music group until he dropped out of school in 1963 and moved to Los Angeles to do music full-time. Denver was playing at folk clubs then, and it took 2 more years before he replaced Chad Mitchell in the Chad Mitchell Trio. They eventually changed the name to Denver, Boys, and Johnson for all 3 members, John Denver, David Boys, and Michael Johnson. A few more years later, Denver left the band and chose to have a solo career. He released his first album called Rhymes and Reasons under RCA Records in 1969. Before this, he made his own recording of some of his songs, and one of these included Babe I Hate to Go, which got the attention of a producer named Milt Okun. It was then changed, which we now know today as Leaving on a Jet Plane. By this time, Ocon had also become Denver's producer along with the folk group Peter, Paul, and Mary, who made the song popular and even got it to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Denver's own version also climbed to #1 on the U.S. Cashbox chart in December 1969. What many people don't know about John Denver is that he did most of the promoting by himself, going on a Midwest tour, giving out free concerts, and even offering to play for free at local places. He also went to radio stations that were nice to him, knowing he was the writer behind Leaving on a Jet Plane. He was even allowed to play a song or two on the radio. All of these things helped the country singer have a strong group of fans who continued to support him even into his later years. Compared to his first album, John Denver's next album, Poems, Prayers, and Promises, which came out in 1971, was a big success. The album did really well on the charts, especially Take Me Home, Country Roads. We've mentioned how Denver helped make himself popular with local people, but the success of this album is also because of his new manager, Jerry Weintraub, who helped get his music played on radio stations everywhere, making more people hear it. John Denver reached new heights, becoming really popular in the early 70s with hit songs like Rocky Mountain High, Sunshine on My Shoulders, Thank God I'm a Country Boy, and Annie's Song, to name a few. Weintraub also made sure he got on local TV, appearing on as many guest shows as he could until he started hosting some eventually. Rocky Mountain Christmas, his holiday special, was even watched by over 60 million people and was called the ABC network's highest-rated show at the time. People wanted to see the singer so much that soon enough he had his own BBC series called The John Denver Show. Of course, we can't forget that the singer also won many important awards, including multiple Grammy Awards and American Music Awards. As John Denver's popularity went down in the late 70s, the singer focused more on helping people and working on nature conservation projects. He took part in fundraising projects by performing for the Aspen Camp School for the Deaf, and even donated to the Aspen Valley Hospital's $7 million capital campaign. He also has the 450-acre WindStar Land Conservancy in Aspen, Colorado, which not only was his home, but also a safe place for wildlife and a center for teaching about the environment. Of course, we already know that Denver married Annie Martel and divorced her after 15 years. What we didn't mention then was that there was a pretty extreme thing that happened during the division of their stuff. Denver admitted then that he was so angry that to show how serious their split was, he tried to cut their marriage bed in half with a chainsaw. However, people who knew them say that he only did it to get back at Martel after she cut down a few of the family trees they had in Aspen. It took a few more years before Denver met his next wife, the Australian actress Cassandra Delaney, in 1985. He met her in Sydney, and after a few short years of dating, they got married in 1988. The following year, Delaney had a daughter named Jessie Bell in May and moved into Denver's Aspen home. But like his marriage to Annie Martel, Denver and Delaney also split up, and their time together was much shorter. They broke up in 1991, with the actress even calling her ex-husband a mean bully. No one really knows for sure, but many believe that Denver's divorce from his second wife was what started many of his problems in later years. He was charged with drunk driving for the first time in 1992, and the following year he said he was guilty of a drunk driving charge when he crashed his Porsche into a tree, so he was put on probation. After he was found guilty of drunk driving, the Federal Aviation Administration FAA told him he had to stop drinking alcohol if he wanted to keep flying planes, but unfortunately, he couldn't do it. The following year, Denver was medically told he couldn't operate an aircraft anymore. Under his gentle image, John Denver faced a lot of hard times, which led to him using alcohol and drugs for comfort. He had times when he felt really sad and was actually not confident despite how he seemed in public. He also openly admitted that he used LSD and marijuana when he wrote Rocky Mountain High, and often got criticized for being a bad drunk and being a hypocrite. He may not be a decorated pilot like his father, but John Denver knew more than a thing or two about flying. He even had a license for it. John Denver enjoyed flying a lot and even took part in a VH1 promotional contest. So, how is it that a man like him met a tragic end? Was there some kind of sabotage in his aircraft? Keep listening to find out. Before we get to the bottom of this, it's important to understand the background and nature of aircraft first. Like all things, an aircraft is built to be strong and safe. But unlike cars, you can't exactly pull over when you catch fire, right? Aircraft would need more than a couple of minutes to pull over, and by then, a simple bit of gray smoke from the engine could quickly turn into fire. For this situation, an aircraft has a fuel shut-off valve in the cockpit, allowing the fire to go away and prevent it from spreading so they can find a field to safely land their plane. John Denver was flying a Rutan Long-EZ, which is a light home-built aircraft, when it crashed into Monterey Bay near the Pacific Grove in California, which led to his death on October 12, 1997. He was 53. There were many conspiracy theories about what caused the crash. One of the more popular ones is the wrong placement of the fuel selection valve, putting it behind the pilot's left shoulder. It was bad design because it would make the pilot let go of all controls to shut the valve off. On top of this, there's also his fuel. Some gauges showed whether he was running low on fuel, but because those weren't straight lines and had no markings, it was hard to tell if he barely had any fuel left. In conclusion, his aircraft was truly poorly built, which led to the country singer falling to his death into the ocean. Still, there were other safety things that the country singer failed to check and follow with the plane's design only playing a part in the overall crash. Because of this, John Denver paid the ultimate price. But despite his sad end, he is still celebrated and best remembered today for what he gave to music and helping people that inspired and changed lives. This year alone, his song "Country Roads Take Me Home" showed up on the Billboard chart after it was featured in a commercial that played during the Super Bowl. Moreover, a tribute to the country singer is about to hit the Aspen Theater on July 10th, which only proves his songs are still important and timeless to this day.